Welcome to the Speaking Podcast. You can find all our episodes on speakingpodcast.com. We're also on BitChute and YouTube. You'll find the links in the podcast description. I'm also a podcasting coach, and I've got 4 other podcasts. You'll find everything on bio.link/podcaster. Today, my guest, it's a spiritual coach for mental and emotional well-being and the founder of Light Trails Co., Martin Theis.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you for the intro.
Yeah, no problem. So I suppose the best thing is you might let the listeners know who's Martin.
Yeah, that's the hardest question right at the beginning. I feel like I constantly rediscover myself, so it's really a difficult question to answer. But in a sense, I'm really intent on creating value, creating some kind of forward movement where we can, as a society, move out of current habits. And I often say to people that my greatest motivation is to relieve the world from suffering and pain. And this might be a really high goal, but I just see the difference in our everyday life, how when the individual is able to move through that, how their whole system, their whole experience changes, and also the decisions they make in the world, what goods they consume, how they take care of the planet. And so this is just like for me the greatest mission, why I love the things that I do and am motivated to keep doing them.
Beautiful. So we're going to just slightly touch on the speaking, and then I want to delve into what you're doing because it's kind of fascinating for me. So you as a young child, because I know you've done workshops and everything, what's your kind of speaking journey?
So my speaking journey, as you mentioned, when I was in my teens, I was a counselor for young adults. They were going to vacations, and we were kind of counseling these vacations. And the very first speaking engagements that in that sense that I had was speaking in front of these 50 children, right? So that was my first stage. And to getting used to speaking and sometimes missing the point, seeing that I didn't really get across my message, they weren't really listening. So they were a really interesting crowd to try out all these things. And at later points, I found out in the university or any other places, I was a president of the student body, and I was holding a speech when I think someone important was leaving the school, and I was just like having this speech for that person. That was a really exciting time in my life because there were these 1,000 people. We were in a church because it was a Catholic church, a Catholic school. And so that was really like stage fright for the first time, like big time, I would say. When I was used to speaking in front of people, but this was feeling a little different, and I had troubles breathing. And then from that, I would just say it just kept on going. I had podcasts like this, or I was leading a convention with a couple of friends, a digital convention where we had these workshops and roundtables. It's just like this organic going in and out, speaking engagements, small groups, bigger groups. And yeah, that's my journey so far.
Excellent. So I believe you're German, but you travel to Norway and Hawaii. You might let me know what's that all about.
It's just loving those places. I mentioned before when we met, Ireland. I loved Ireland, but it was just not my weather because that winter when I was there, we had 90 consecutive days of storm and rain, like all day. And as much as I love some places, I'm kind of like a cat. I don't like to get wet too much. Snow is different, and in the tropics, rain is also different because it's warm. But the cold kind of weather that gets into your bones is not really my favorite climate, I would say. And so just Norway feels like something that has been constantly calling me. I was living in Oslo and I really enjoyed the time there. And since then, I'm trying to get back and move there actually next year. And Hawaii is just my kind of like the soul home. When I got there the first time, I just felt I arrived home. So it's this feeling. It's more of a feeling than anything else. I feel very alive and connected to the nature and to the people, especially the people. I love speaking Norwegian. It's a funny language. Swedish is the more beautiful of the Scandinavian languages because they sing so much, but Norwegian has something that really appeals to me. So it's a combination.
And singing, I suppose, where I come from in Cork, they're kind of known for singing as they speak. But I wouldn't go back to Ireland. I love it. I love that they don't build on the coastline and everything. But
Yeah.
that's the thing. You kind of, if you go to Ireland, bring an umbrella and bring some water. And it's a shame because it's such a beautiful country.
Yeah, and I feel like I've never really experienced the cold that I experienced there. It's not as cold actually because the climate is quite moderate, right? But this chill,
It's
I've
the
never felt.
westerly
Yeah,
winds because
yeah,
even here, no, I'm in Poland and it's minus at the moment, -3 or whatever. And it feels colder in Ireland because with the winds.
yeah,
And here you just get used to the snow, and it's like once you wrap up, it's not too bad. But I tend to, and I don't know about like when the time you were there, but I noticed that through the years that I got ill a lot more in Ireland. I rarely get sick here, and
mm-hmm.
I think it's because of the wind. It's just constant because I mean you rarely wrap up, you know, and yeah, it's just being exposed to the elements all the time.
Yeah, definitely. So, Norway to me, and Scandinavia, even Canada, this kind of region, the tundric region, is where it gets cold. It's a little gray in the November time, but once the first snowfall, it gets much brighter, even though you have less sunlight. You know, it's just like a different experience of winter. And I mean, I don't have to tell anyone what is beautiful about Hawaii because it's kind of like all over the place. It's being marketed by all these different companies, right? That beautiful landscape and the ocean, but it's just really the aloha spirit, the way the people treat each other. I mean, it's an island. You can relate to that. People are different on an island because we are a community. We are dependent on each other's help, and so this whole spirit of the people who live there and being able to be in the ocean as much as I am is just something that really appeals to me. And that's a long version of explaining what draws me to these different places.
Okay. So with the like the spiritual coach, like what's your own spiritual journey? Because I know you've gone to Eckhart Tolle's retreats, you've done some stuff in Ireland. You might just kind of take me through your kind of journey in the way that it kind of evolved.
Yeah, so the foundation is shamanic journeys. When I was still studying in Cologne, I stumbled into a shamanic journey seminar that a friend had gone before me, and he told me you got to try this out. And so, for those of the audience who don't know, shamanic journeys is basically like a meditative state where we connect with our subconscious, and images come up, feelings come up, maybe sensations in the body. And this kind of work is what we do in order to kind of let go of old patterns and look at how am I behaving in certain situations, where is trauma, maybe there's this traumatic excuse me, traumatic experience that I'm shown and that I could release, and all these. It's a very um, integrated and holistic way of working. And so I started with this because I loved it so much. When I moved to Cork, I was looking for something similar, and I found this um, practitioner who was doing shamanic journeys and shamanic work. And so I kind of went into his studio there and learned a little bit more from him. And the difference between those teachings were that in Germany, I was taught Northern American shamanism, if you want, and in Ireland, I got an introduction into the more Southern American approach, which is similar, but there are quite certain distinctive differences. And then from there, I would say continuously absorbing spiritual teachings, books, and going to seminars like the Eckhart Tolle retreat, which is something that I never really thought would impact me as much as it did in November 22, because it's such a different way of being in a retreat with such a person that is holding so much space and is able to bring that energy right into the room. You know, it just feels like being elevated by this person who's so present and so aware. And so the journey has been really um, becoming more and more open, letting go of patterns and receiving teachings and becoming this person that I always knew I wanted to be because I was suffering so much, if that makes any sense. I was in so much pain that it was, to me, I just felt like called to work with this because it made me feel better and it made me feel lighter. And through that, I got inspired to help along others and to use all these alleys that are kind of like it wasn't a straight path, right? There were many errors and many ways where I had to retract and go back and found something out. And so I feel like all this stumbling around in the spiritual realm, I just wanted to condense my experience into something where I could help people along. If I had found a direct approach at the time, it would have been nice, but it wasn't, if that makes any sense. So it was the journey was the goal in a sense. And so this is basically where I was at, stumbling through life until I found some kind of sense and security inside of me to know, okay, it doesn't really matter where I am or what I'm doing as long as I'm connected, staying connected with that.
And is that kind of mainly through breath work that when you're connecting, or what's the way that you're doing it?
I would say the breath is the biggest foundation. It's not a special technique or a way of connecting through the breath, but when we go or when I go through a shamanic journey and I experience something, um, if I stop breathing or if I'm getting more unconscious, if I'm getting tired, then the breath would be the best way to stay connected to that emotion. And oftentimes, in facilitating this, I realize when people start breathing shallowly or they kind of like start to suppress an emotion that is coming up, to just remind them of staying in touch with that emotion through the breath. So I would say it's a foundation, but it's not necessarily a special kind of approach like a power breath in the yoga or something. It is really just becoming aware, how am I breathing, keeping on breathing deeply, and to release that um knot or cloudedness, to just like being able to breathe through an emotion rather than to try to get rid of it or suppress it.
And because sometimes when somebody an emotion surfaces, they kind of it trigger something that they had forgotten about, didn't realize had happened, and they go, I suppose the pain comes out there and then. And then
Yes.
later they tend to go through a transition that they're able to kind of wash their hands, and they're a new person because of it. But like being supportive of a person that goes through that, because sometimes there's people doing this and they don't have a facilitator, let's say, to
Yeah.
kind of look at, because
Yeah.
I've been at situation. I think it would be more heavy breath work that causes this, but I have witnessed it. And the fact that the people kind of knew what they were doing, they were able to comfort them and everything was okay. But I can imagine, because there's a lot of times there's people out there, they go away and they don't go down the deep journey that you've done and kind of readjust and make sure that you really get this. They kind of do a weekend's course and they go away and start doing this.
Yeah.
And it's kind of making sure, I suppose, that that you're doing it with the right person.
I agree, absolutely. And I feel at least my journey has taught me that we have safeties, like subconscious safeties. If we're not able to cope with something, our energy usually drops. So we get tired, or we kind of like maybe use substances, which is not the best way, but we have coping mechanisms that help us to, if it's too much for right now, we will probably find alleys to go through or to use in order to not have to confront this emotion if it is too much. But if it isn't, I feel like we can establish a routine like in stretching. I love to use that analogy with stretching because we can stretch really, really mindful with our body, and we can go to a point where there's certain discomfort, but we can help the tendons and the muscles to relax into that, or we can go way too deep in that, and everything just like really is going tense, and you're not really doing anything except for hurting yourself. And so to just be very mindful with that and to use the breath in order to touch that emotion, and then to just be with it as much as we can, and to keep on breathing. And I think the best way to really approach this is to know this the only way really to let go of this emotion that is here right now is to feel it and to go through with it. Because if I try to do anything else, if I want it to be away, or if I try to suppress it, it will persevere. And to know, well, this is uncomfortable now, but the more I feel it and the more I'm able to accept this, the lesser it will get. It's a little bit, it's like being wanting, like, this is really sometimes difficult for me to express, but sometimes we have a certain emotion that we are masochistic about, kind of like we love that it hurts, if that makes any sense. And so by really feeling that emotion, it slips away, and that is something where I feel we have to learn to let go of that. The more it hurts, if we look a sad movie, for example, it really is a beautiful feeling of being sad and crying, at least for me. And so, but to realize that this is just an emotion, and it is not defining my life, this is not defining me, and that surrender to that gives way to also just being more peaceful. And that's the best way I could describe it, if that makes sense.
Of course, yeah, yeah. And I know you kind of touch as well on, say, burnout, because a lot of people, just through the way, sometimes a lot of people unfortunately have to do a lot of jobs these days just to,
Yeah.
put a roof over their head and pay the bills. But there's two kind of sides in this. One is the individual, and two, the spouse, or the family around them. It's one kind of the signs for identifying it. Does it get to a stage where you can actually spot it before it goes too extreme? And the other kind of continuing from that then is kind of solutions when it gets to this stage, because I mean, unfortunately a lot of people experience burnout.
Absolutely. And I think this is a really a topic that is, I would say, oftentimes our unawareness or our mindlessness, in terms of we realize what we're doing, is the fastest way to get sucked into it. And I've experienced minor burnout several times because I've overextended myself. I put myself into this something out of it, or I wanted maybe recognition. So I would say burnout is often a disbalance between what I give in and what I receive back. If I give in all my heart and I'm helping in my company, helping all these people, but I'm not looking at my internal energy level, and I want something back, maybe recognition, maybe a promotion. And as soon as that is not fulfilled, then this disbalance becomes evident to us and we feel burnout. But when we do what we do because we love what we do, and we are in touch with our inner fuel gauge, so to say, then we can more often stop and take care of ourselves. But this is really complex because it's oftentimes about codependencies. I am giving you something and you give me something in return, and this dependent relationship is often leading to this burnout because one, I am I am in need of something external, and as soon as that is not coming in, my house of cards is collapsing a little bit. So I feel the whole topic about burnout is a very individual perspective that we need to take in, and to see how is your life, how did you design your life, how is everything unfolding right now, and where are codependencies, where are your expectations, and where are they not being met, and how can we work on that needing external things to satisfy me, and how can we kind of like bring that into inner alignment and say, well, I'm here, I'm showing up, I'm doing what I can, but I'm myself. And I would say that is the um biggest statement or false belief, I'm not good enough, that is causing burnout a lot of the time, that I'm trying to make something better, I'm trying to make my partner happy, which is probably the biggest reason oftentimes with the clients that I spoke about, that I'm trying to make my partner happy. And that's why I'm giving all this energy into this relationship, because when my partner is not happy, maybe I experience a lot of quarreling, I experience a lot of being put down or something. And so I just try to make them happy, but it's effort, it's like a black hole I'm putting my energy in. And so I feel it's a very complex topic, but we can learn that there's a solution, and the solution is most of the times to just get back to myself, center myself, and see what is it that I need in this moment. And if my fuel gauge, if my car is filled up, I'm able to support others. But if my tank is empty, I'm not helping anyone.
And when I was in my early 20s, I was working for a construction company running a big project, and it was, I know a lot of the times I was kind of 8 in the morning till nearly 12 at night when I was, and I got like sciatica, which is a trapped nerve, and I tried loads of things to cure it, and it was like I got an operation in the end. And what saved me was I got a book, Healing Back Pain by Dr. John
Yeah,
Sarno. And
yeah,
it was a mental thing. And it's not that the pain didn't exist, but there's so many people that I have recommended that, and they've all been
yeah,
cured. And I'm
yeah.
wondering, like, because obviously at the time you don't know these things, but I'm wondering later when you can reflect on life and look back, that was probably a burnout, because you shouldn't be working them hours. And that it was like your body's way of kind of going, hey, stop.
Absolutely. And I mean, the book is awesome. I read it because Dr. Wayne Dyer recommended in some of his talks, I think. And so I experienced back pain and read it. And I think what you say is also true. It is both. It is recognizing that certain circumstances are not perfect, or maybe I would have to arrange or kind of like make a difference, make a change in my life, but also that our mind is so powerful, and that when we know about something, we can really start to think differently about it, that it's not my back that is hurting, but it is some kind of pain that is manifesting kind of like through my body, right? And so that helps me to understand, well, then maybe I need to look at that. And if I look at that, and if I integrate this pain, my back has the possibility of healing, or it's just shifting and I have to do some more work. Maybe it goes somewhere into my arm, or maybe, but yeah, absolutely.
And I suppose it's probably similar with kind of anxiety and depression, because like I've seen that there's a very high percentage, especially in America, and I think in Ireland as well, so probably the UK, that are, taking Prozac and the like. And like from looking at it, all the figures that they create to show that this is actually helpful have been doctored. So there's a real, like, we're talking less than 10% that might be working. And it's basically the same kind of thing, the brain, because even with the placebo, the sugar pill, they get better results. So it's like your body in this as well is because of some trauma, whether it's work, a relationship, or a loss, that your body is reacting in a certain way that's affecting you. And you think then by taking the pill or the operation or something like that, that you're getting the success,
Yeah.
but you're not really. You're kind of, it's still there.
Absolutely, and I think in order to maybe to bring that point to the audience, Dr. Sarno found out that all the operations that had been done on the people's backs were mostly ineffective, or the pain came back. I just wanted to reiterate that for the audience, and so the same with if we just look at the symptom of a depression or something and we take like these really heavy medicines. I've never taken any antidepressants, but from what I heard from people, it's really making a big impact in people's lives, and you're not real, you're kind of like in that's a my assumption, zombie mode, kind of like not really.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I've never myself, but that's what
Yeah.
I've heard as well. And from people I know that take it, that's what they say.
So we have taken something that is curing the symptom, but we're not looking at the actual cause for that, and that's why I feel these shamanic journeys have been so helpful for me, because I've been really consciously going into the roots of certain things and looking at that. As painful as it was helping me to really start working at the root and to alleviate that, rather than to just take something that would help me in feeling better in this moment, and I think once we understand that these pain symptoms that we feel, and these maybe also mental things that come up in our lives, are just helping us to realize there's something that is festering somewhere, and once I take a look at it, it will get better. I think Don Miguel Ruiz says in his four agreements that we have to cut open the wound, we have to clean the wound, disinfect the wound, and then it has a chance to heal. But if we don't do anything, this wound will start to really get worse and worse, right? And so, yeah.
No, excellent. So I know you've created a thing called Life, the abbreviation Life. So you might just
Yes.
touch on that, what that's all about.
So it is my way of putting this holistic system that I was taught um, into practice. And life means learn, integrate, fuel, and evolve. And the reason why I love this acronym is because we're never really done. When we start learning, we integrate our learning, and then we fuel that, whatever we integrated, we fuel that for our evolving, for the evolution. But when we evolve, we still get to because it's a circle, we get back to learning. We learn either something new, or we learn a deeper meaning of what we learned, and then we integrate that and fuel that and evolve. So it is a continuous, not a cycle, but kind of like an upward how do you say that? If it is a circle that is going upward, a spiral, yeah. So we're spiraling through that. And I think the biggest myth of spiritual development and the spiritual path is that we're point, you do this and then you're done, you're enlightened, you're somewhere completely happy, everything is fine, your life will be awesome, no problems, never again. And what helped me was to just realize this is just a different phase, or the famous saying, this too shall pass, right? We're constantly going from something good into something maybe negative, and then it just changes. So the spiral is just my way of teaching that we have tools, and if we apply these tools continuously, we will spiral out of this bad feeling, or this depressive feeling, or the emotional state that we feel right now. It will get better, and our baseline will change over time.
I think when you kind of realize, because sometimes people think that you're going to get to a utopia where everything becomes fantastic, but the reality is there's curveballs all through life, and it's kind of your reaction to them. So, if something hits you, whether it's a death, whether it's a fight, a falling out, a business partner, whatever it is, it's you don't let it affect everything. I mean, obviously it's going to, and just like you mentioned earlier with watching a movie, I'd be the same. I watch a movie, yeah, tears can come down my eyes. I never, that doesn't bother me. I don't have shame for that. I actually like that I can embrace a movie and be totally engrossed in it. But then I can step out and kind of continue with my life. And I think it's the same with that. When you get the curveball, yeah, it's not that you just, but you get to brush yourself down a lot faster by actually being more connected with yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And being open, as you said, to say, well, this is how I feel right now. The other day, I got really angry because I looked at something in the environment that was happening, and I was really, really mad because it makes me so frustrated to see that we could be living in a world so much different, and there is just like it's not. And then whenever we attach our seeing things and the outcome, that madness, but to say, well, it makes me angry. There are so many things in this world that aren't going well, and there's so much that we can live for to make this world a better place. But to feel that anger and to say, well, okay, this is how I feel right now, but to not hold on to it, as you said, to just let it go. And then something beautiful, maybe a tree, a flower, a person, a dog, whatever comes that fills our heart with joy. And then to say, well, but in this world, there's also so many beautiful things, so much love, so much care, so many people who do amazing work and they're never recognized, these unknown saints in a way. So there, everything, the whole palette is given, and to just see that is the journey of life basically, and to not stick to any emotion or hold on to it.
Oh, exactly. And kind of, we all would love a nicer world. We're kind of aware of so much of the evil corruption that's going on. But even people that are kind of, because I've one podcast that's exposing fraud and corruption, but with solutions. And uh, there's a lot of people that were doing the same. And they kind of, one, in the research, it got to them. So they weren't able to disconnect themselves later. I mean, it's not that, I mean, there's times I'll actually research a guest and I will cry because of just knowing what they've went through, or it is so sad. But I know I'm able to park that. But the other thing then is the attacks, because you've got whether they're bots or actually just people, and they get engrossed in the actual connection with that. Whereas I don't, I can separate it. I can kind of determine straight away, is this a real person? But there's times that I can actually just come from compassion, because it's kind of like hurting people hurt. And I'll write something, but I'll write it in a way I'm never attacking them. And so many times it's just, but there's times then that, okay, just this is, you're never going to win with this. But the majority of people, they go on the attack when they're doing something. And that's what they're looking for. They're looking for the battle. And they just kind of,
Yeah.
it just spirals. But when you come after and just reply, I mean, there's times I actually go, I would give reference to my meditation podcast, and it just stops then, because it's kind of like I'm just making a point that obviously does that without even attacking them. And I find
Yeah.
that I've seen people. There was one guy, he had something like 60,000 followers, and he just quit because he got attacked of it so many times, and not to let that get to you. And
Yeah.
you'd hear the likes of Joe Rogan, you hear a load of the top guys, they don't even read the comments, because what they say, and it's kind of, I suppose it's kind of touching on most of the social media. It's like I could have 99 people praising me and saying brilliant, and 1% abusing me. And where's your
Yeah.
energy go? The majority of
Yeah.
people, they just look at the person that's abusing them. And that's what they kind of, their reality becomes then. Instead of just turning off that tap and just looking at all the love that's coming in your direction.
Absolutely. I mean, this is where we're talking about master level in a sense, right? To decide where am I putting my focus? Am I putting my focus on those who support me and who love what I'm doing? Or am I letting this one person, maybe it's more, maybe 10, just trigger me? And I think while we have this conversation, I feel The Way of the Peaceful Warrior, the book, I'm just listening to it right now. And I think our autonomy over our emotions and not blindly reacting to a stimulus is like the greatest freedom that we can bring into our lives. That something is happening, and at least having some sort of awareness. Okay, this is making me angry. Do I want to be angry? Do I want to hold on to that anger? Or do I want to fight this person? Do I want to get into this actual battle? Or well, I realized this is leading me nowhere except for losing a ton of energy. And then at the end of the day, I feel like crap because it's been highly negative and toxic, that conversation that I had. Absolutely. I think this is really a great skill to develop, like you said, to really say something that interrupts that conversation, but also brings awareness and brings a higher kind of way of awareness into this conversation.
And I know you touch on, say, like the tree of abundance or the tree of healing. You might just kind of touch on that. What exactly you mean by that?
Yeah, so those are beginners' shamanic journeys, and it is a journey. When we look at, we are not used, we as general society, we are not used to um, doing this kind of conscious dream like work, right? Where we go into this different kind of reality where we walk around or we explore and experience things. And in order to make it easy, the tree of abundance or the tree of health are just simple journeys where it is not a human being that we're meeting or a totem animal that we're asking, are you my totem animal? It's a tree. It's a relatively simple organic structure. And so I go, if the assignment is to go to the tree of healing, I just go in my shamanic journey and I find a tree. I look at that tree. What kind of tree is it? In what season are we looking at it? How are the leaves looking? What is it? What is its state? You know? And so when I did many, many years ago, my tree of healing, I found that was a birch tree. And so it is something where I know that, I mean, the birch is a tree in Russia and many Eastern European countries is highly, like, it's a highly sacred tree because of its healing capacities. But for me personally, whenever I am around birch trees, I know they are my healing tree, right? And so I can just be with them, and I could even drink birch juice or something that is really healthy physiologically, but it's just for me to know what tree is my tree of healing, and if I need some healing, to go also visit the tree and to just realize something. And it is often difficult to talk about these journeys in general because we as these travelers in the journeys, it is so highly individual what we find out. Your tree of healing experience would be completely different from mine, you know. And so these beginner journeys I just offer because it makes it easy for us to experience this non-ordinary reality and to and find value and find benefits and information that we can use in our everyday life, and with that knowledge to bring change and sustainable advancements in our lives.
Excellent. And finally, I know you're working creating Aloha Foundation, so you might just kind of touch on what your dream and mission for that.
Yes. So many years ago, also in a workshop, and it was a shamanic journey workshop, my teacher asked us to write down short-term, mid-term, long-term goals and impossible goals we think are impossible. And we did a shamanic journey, and after that we compiled this list. And so in this journey, I had a minor vision, I would say. It wasn't really complex, about a place where people could come and heal and transform, where there was some kind of agricultural uh, um, was supporting that place. And it was an image that I saw about coffee. And so, long story of this vision is that I thought, okay, this felt like a tropical place. So I wasn't sure in the beginning if it was Jamaica or maybe Hawaii, because those were two places I had really a lot of good vibrations about. And so, by inquiring into this process, it slowly evolved that on the big island of Hawaii, there is a very, very well known coffee growing region that is called Kona. and that they sell one of the most expensive coffees in the world. And that was not because it is important that it's so well known, but it means that growing this kind of coffee would be making it possible for such a sanctuary or institution to grow this coffee, sell the coffee, and to reduce the cost for people to stay there. The main part of this vision is for me that it is about creating a network of like sanctuaries or refuges where people can come that usually wouldn't be able to afford retreats that are currently offered. You know, I looked around in the world some years ago, and I saw how many thousands of dollars these retreats cost. And so it feels like we need in this world places where many people have access to these places of transformation, where they can be in a safe space and be whatever they need to experience. And this sanctuary that I saw was never really about you have to contribute, you have to work on the field, or you have to work the coffee trees, you have to do something. But it is just like, how can the work that I'm doing support me in the process that I'm doing right now? And the best example would be if I'm working with my anger, it would be really nice to have a structure to just tear down, maybe with a sledgehammer, and to bring it all down and to really let that anger come up, and for me to be have a way to work with that, you know, or to build something because I'm in a phase of my life where I really want to express myself. I want to bring my creativity out. And so I'm building maybe something that is artistic or even functional, you know. And so this sanctuary was always meant as a place where people can be, they don't have to add anything, and they can contribute whatever it is they need to contribute in order to grow and heal, and have a way of doing that without having to pay tons of money, because we all need these kind of places.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, you're dead right. I mean, most of these things, they're kind of normally minimum 3 grand up to 10K and more. And the majority of people can't afford that. Most people are living week to week.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And you're right. It is costly, and yeah, absolutely.
Oh, beautiful. Well, I wish you super success with that. So you might let people know, how can they
Thank
get
you.
in contact with you?
So I have a website, lighttrails.co is my website, and I am on LinkedIn and YouTube. I'm in the process of releasing meditations and shamanic journeys on YouTube. So if you bear with me, I will do it, and I have started doing it. And other than that, just reach out, you know, lighttrails.co, and send me a message through that website, or book a call, whatever I can support you with. Absolutely. My work is, like we talked about, based on shamanic journeys, but this is just the foundation. Whatever you want to work on, emotional well-being is my focus, but we can incorporate other things as well.
Okay, excellent. Thoroughly enjoyed the conversation, Martin. I'll make sure I put the links both in the audio and the video. So
thank you so much, and I really appreciate you having me. Thank you.
no worries. So that's all for the speaking podcast and the meditation podcast, because I mentioned that at the start, this might be suitable for both the meditation. So you'll find it on the meditation as well. Find everything about me, my further podcasts, and my coaching bio.link/podcaster. Be sure to give us a thumbs up, 5-star rating, share with your friends. Until next week, take care.